The year's 2014 and Call of Duty Advanced Warfare has just dropped and introduced the gaming industry to a new system called supply drops. It was a way for people who had bigger pockets to easily win the entire game. This was a detriment to the gaming industry, and honestly, at a certain point, it just got extremely repetitive. You could not play a single game without finding some form of supply drops in them. Then Fortnite Battle Royale dropped, and this introduced the gaming world to a system called the Battle Pass. Like supply drops, now you can't find a single game that doesn't have a battle pass. And while I would very well argue that this is a better system, certain gaming companies like Activision Blizzard have started putting what you can consider pay-to-win items in these battle passes. For example, they're starting to put heroes in the battle pass in Overwatch. Everything in the gaming industry now just feels extremely and heavily monetized, which, while good for the companies, feels like a detriment to the player base. And while extreme monetization in games has always been a thing, I feel like it's worse now than it ever has been. And most games nowadays feel like a copy and paste of each other. It's kind of like when you ask your friend to copy his homework and you slightly change the answers. Everything just feels so mindless to play nowadays. There's no strategy involved. It's just, hey, there's the bad guy. Shoot him with whatever gun you like. Because everything is perfectly balanced in these games nowadays to help every player get a chance to play properly. This logic about FPS games can also be applied to racing games like Need for Speed, Forza Horizon, and Gran Turismo. They all feel the same with just slight differences. And while these games aren't bad and are still extremely fun, they just feel like the same. I could go play Need for Speed and get the same experience as playing Forza Horizon, or I can go play Overwatch and get the same feeling as playing Call of Duty. My whole point with this is I feel like gaming industries now see us as pockets who would just play the same mindless shooting or racing game now, which is not what I want in a game. I want a game to feel unique, and I want a game to feel different, which is why when I discovered Doom Eternal, it was truly a different experience for gaming. And it was no longer the same mindless shooter that every other game had become. It really made you think about what guns to use in what situation and what strategies are involved with taking down what demons. I remember on my first playthrough really underestimating a lot of the guns because I saw no use in using them, but upon a second and even third playthrough of the game, I quickly realized how valuable every weapon in your roster is. For example, I remember on my first playthrough calling the ballista a really bad gun, but upon a second playthrough, I realized how strong it was. Then, I remember on a third playthrough, I realized how actually effective it was against flying-type demons like the Cacodemon and the Pain Elemental. Doom Eternal is a very strategy-based game, and I feel like this is one of the reasons why I wanted to get so much better at the game, so that way I can learn what each weapon has to offer and can bring to the table in combat. Doom Eternal is genuinely a very difficult game, though, and I remember, once again on my first playthrough, really struggling with it, but I quickly realized that every time I died, it wasn't because of some bullshit reason. It was because I fucked up. I made a mistake. The game will let you know that you made a mistake by punishing you harshly if you don't move for long periods of time, or you'll just get completely destroyed by every demon in the area if you make one slight mistake, which really helped me get better at the game. It's no longer about, oh, this person has the new tank in Overwatch, or, oh, this person has the Bal 27 Inferno. It was about your own faults while playing the game and how quickly and effectively you can clear out certain areas. One thing that really separated Doom Eternal from a lot of other shooters I played is prioritization. For example, Archviles. If you don't know, these guys act as a buff totem in demon form. They can resurrect and even buff other demons in the area, making them stronger, faster, and do more damage. And on top of that, with them resurrecting dead demons, more demons are bound to come, obviously, which in turn means that other demons will be stronger, faster, and do more damage. And the longer you let the Archvile live, the more chaotic and harder to live it's going to become, which is why when an Archvile spawns, you want to stop whatever you're doing and make that guy your top priority and go take him out. One of the main other reasons I feel like Doom Eternal made me fall in love with itself is because of the fact that I felt unstoppable when playing. I felt genuinely unstoppable, like nothing can get in my way. And obviously on my first playthrough, I was not going to feel like that, and that's fine because most new players won't feel like that. which is why I wanted to get better so that way I can feel unstoppable pretty much every single time I play. Another thing that made the game feel really good is the movement system, as you're about to see right here. Look at how far up I got launched. Doom Eternal's movement system is based on momentum, and if you can carry that momentum, which makes the game flow really nicely. Doom Eternal also makes you think. As I've said before, there are certain guns better at taking out certain demons. For example, right here with the Cacodemon, if you shoot a grenade into its mouth, it'll, go into a glory kill state, which can be used to get extra health. Each system in this game, as I've also stated before, has its own way of playing out. You get the chainsaw for ammo, you get the glory kills for health, and you get the flame belch for armor. You can also ice bomb them and then just kill them outright and get health that way. Also, the meat hook on the super shotgun, if you have the flaming hook upgrade on it, it can drop armor for you, which is also really nice. Everything in this game really just plays off of itself so nicely, and it's a lot for a new player to really understand, which is completely fine, and I totally understand that, because there's so many systems. I mean, you got like 10 weapons, is it? You got, your chainsaw, your 2 frags, the crucible, the ice bomb. You got all kinds of crazy stuff. Sometimes it's hard to remember, and I still find myself forgetting some of these things sometimes. The fact that I keep forgetting this makes me want to play more, so that way I cannot forget them in a pinch. Doom Eternal's hardest difficulty is called Ultra Nightmare, and while most games wouldn't give a shit if you completed it on the hardest difficulty, Doom Eternal gives you some really nice rewards. For example, if you complete the base campaign on Ultra Nightmare, you get the golden armor. It's called Phobos, and it's just like the normal armor but in gold, and you also get the gold combat shotgun. If you complete Ancient Gods Part 1 on Ultra Nightmare, you get a golden Seraphim armor, which is really nice as well. And then if you complete Tag 2 on Tag 2, the Ancient Gods Part 2, obviously, if you complete that on Ultra Nightmare, you'll get this armor that is reminiscent of the Dark Lord's armor, and it just looks really nice. The game rewards you and gives you some genuinely great looking rewards for having beaten the game on the hardest difficulty. And while I'm not saying that this game is perfect, because let's be real, I've been sucking it off this whole video, there are certain times where I've just died to bullshit glitches. For example, the meat hook, for some reason, I don't know if it's just my game and it being on a console, it just doesn't always work. I'll be looking at an enemy and my meat hook will be completely recharged, and I'll just be looking at them and just nothing will happen. I'll try to, grasp onto them and I'm clicking the button, just nothing happens. Which, is completely fine. It's a game. It's bound to have some bugs in it. But sometimes, if you're trying to get out in a pinch, it just sucks. Those instances, however, are few and far between. So it's not like you're always going to be getting them every 5 minutes, which is very nice. Another aspect of the game that I find really fun in Doom Eternal is the speedrunning community. There are some genuinely insane strategies in this community. I have a video up on my channel, and I'll actually just throw it up right here, so that way you guys can see how just wild speedruns are. Speedruns on console don't always work very well, and that's not to say because the game is not optimized for console. It's just that movement in Doom Eternal is really dependent upon your FPS. So if you have a higher end PC, you're gonna get more frames per second, which will allow you to get better momentum. It's a very weird system that they have going, which is why another reason why Doom Eternal's frame rate on PC is capped at 250. Another thing, going off the point I first made about Doom Eternal, is that while there is a battle pass in this game, yes, you don't have to pay for it. Everything you get is entirely cosmetic, and it's not like it's on the front page of the game where you're going to go into a shop and see these items and be like, man, I wish I had those. It's all in a bundle pack, and the only way, as far as I can see, that you can actually view them is if you go into the Microsoft Store itself, which is a nice refresh because you're not getting bombarded with all these advertisements on the front page or even in a separate tab on the actual game itself. And in games like Fortnite and Overwatch, you're constantly bombarded with these, cosmetic items. I mean, they have whole tabs just dedicated to these sections, which, well, yes, is fine. It's just tiring of seeing the same thing over and over. Doom Eternal's cosmetics come and go. I mean, like I said, their whole battle pass system is insane. It's free, it's awesome. You can get a bunch of rewards for free, actually. And in fact, I have not made a single purchase in this game aside from the 2 DLC packs because I heard that they were much harder, and yes, they are. And the only reason I bought them was because I wanted to get better. As I've stated before, Doom Eternal makes you want to get better at the game, which I think is fantastic. I have about 75 skins for the Slayer, and while like maybe 10 of those are because I bought the Ancient Gods Part 1 and Part 2 and like completed milestones in them. A bunch of the other ones are simply because of the fact that I played the game a bunch. I mean, right now there's a festive event going on in the game, and you get a Santa Claus Slayer. You also get you get some Christmas theme items, which is also really nice. Honestly, I feel like if any gaming company is going to take anything away from Doom Eternal, it should not be the strategy based shooters, because obviously, this is like Doom Eternal's whole shtick. It's an arena shooter, and there's going to be strategy involved in it. I think the main takeaway should be is you can make a game that relies entirely on DLC packs and, just regular purchases of the game itself. It doesn't have to be this massively monetized system. And I get that, hey, like, oh, other games need longevity, which is totally fine. But if that's the case for certain games, I feel like they should at least give you some of the currency for free. Obviously, not a lot, but just enough so that way, every once in a while, you can buy yourself a cosmetic. For example, while I said that these games should give away their currency for free, I did kind of imply that these games don't. They do. But for games like Overwatch, if you complete 3 weekly challenges, which keep in mind have huge milestones that you have to get to, you get 60 Overwatch tokens, I think they're called, which for a game like Overwatch, that's not a lot. A lot of these cosmetics cost like 300, 500, and you're going to have to, if you want something that's 500 and you're making, I don't know, let's say 50 a week, right? That's going to take you 10 weeks to get to, which is 3 months of work. I think a game that does it best is Fortnite. I mean, in the Battle Pass alone, you get maybe about 300, 400 V-Bucks every season now, which is fantastic. There are certain cosmetics in the shop that cost 200, and while, yes, those are just like common emotes, you still can get those in about a day of playing, which is fantastic. And if you're willing to drop, I don't know how much it is now, but when I bought it, it was about $30 on Save the World. You can also get these V-Bucks free every single week. The amount of V-Bucks you get can vary from 150 all the way to 800, which 800 is enough for, like a purple emote. But if you save them up for 2 weeks and you have 150 one week and then 800 the next week, in 2 weeks you have yourself a battle pass for entirely free. While with Overwatch, the battle pass costs 1,000. And once again, if we're using 50 Overwatch tokens every week, if we're making that much every week, that's 20 weeks of grinding, which is almost half a year, and it's insane. Look, I know at this point I'm complaining about, these games and the monetization in them. And while, like I said, I'm not against it, at this point it just feels like they're giving you like the bare minimum so that way they can still have huge profit off of these things. While Doom Eternal has its own battle pass system, it doesn't not have its own currency system. When the game was alive, they were relying entirely on sales and the DLC packs to make it through, which is completely fine. They didn't need this battle pass system. I feel like a lot of these games, like I said, they need longevity, which once again is totally fine. I feel like at the very least, they should give you more rewards for completing these weekly challenges like Fortnite does. Fortnite, like I said before, also does a very good job at giving you the rewards. It feels, I don't want to say earned, but it feels like they're being very generous with it, which is always nice. It might make me sound cheap, which is totally fine, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like Doom Eternal and Fortnite have the best implement of these two systems. Fortnite gives you their own currency in abundance like all the time, and Doom Eternal gives you the battle pass for completely free. At the end of the day, I guess it's my own issues with the gaming industry and the fact that Doom Eternal requires a lot of strategy to actually be good at it that made me fall in love with the game in the first place. It is one of the best games I've ever played, and I do highly recommend it.